Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting installment in my little mini-series on affordable dream cars. In this episode, we're going all the way because I am driving a Ford GT40. Oh yes! A Ford GT40 is a very special thing. Even a replica such as this one built in 2013 can offer us a direct link to the past. They can stir the soul, and many people have very fond memories of cars like this. And today I would like to take the opportunity to share with you one of my own. In the summer of 2005, I discovered that one of my best school friends, Henry's dad, actually owned a GT40, a continuation vehicle no less. So technically speaking, a real one. On a beautiful British summer's day such as this, I eventually persuaded him to take me out for a drive. We made ourselves a little two-car convoy. I went out with Henry's dad in the Ford, and Henry went out with my friend in the Ferrari 355 that you might have seen on the channel before. It was a glorious, fantastic day, and inside the Ford, it was hot, it was cramped, it was uncomfortable, it was noisy, it was brilliant. The Ferrari howled down the lanes where the Ford thundered and spat fire. It was utterly and totally intoxicating, and it was one of the defining moments in my then developing love of the motor car, something which you can probably guess still afflicts me to this day. And so now, every time I see a GT40, I can't help but wonder what it was like on the other side. Although that was half a lifetime ago, I am still unable to walk past a GT40 without thinking of that absolutely perfect summer's day. I got the opportunity to drive a Ferrari 355 many years ago, but the chance to try a Ford simply never materialized until now. And this car's blue and white paint scheme, I think, is fate's way of tipping its hat to 15-year-old JM, because this remains one of my dream cars, and today I've got the keys. Let's go. The GT40 is a most incredible car, and for one really exceptional reason. If you were to draw a Venn diagram of all of the different people that like cars and their particular interests, in the middle, in that tiny little sliver of the diagram where everyone crosses over, you're going to find the GT40. I don't think I've really ever met anybody that had a genuine hatred for one. Some people are merely indifferent, but the vast majority of people absolutely love them. I don't know really what it is, but you've got so many things to choose from. You've got that wonderful underdog, the man takes it to the establishment, Ford versus Ferrari story, told very well, I thought, in the recent film starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale. You've got the more basic, the more obvious, the fact that this is a jaw-droppingly gorgeous 1960s sports car. This is from the era when race cars were genuinely beautiful things, and it has real race pedigree, of course, thanks to its quartet of Le Mans wins. Although the cars which won weren't all the same, well, with one notable exception. This car I'm driving today is a Tornado replica of the Mark I GT40. For me, the Mark I is the one. The oddity of Le Mans rules means that it was in fact the early Mark Is which were the final GT40s to claim victory. They were technically quite out of date by that time, and ahead of me there is a man in a van trying to get killed, overtaking a lorry in a 50 limit on an unsighted bend. Darwin Award winner right there. Anyway, onto the car. This is another one of the vehicles provided to me by the good people at Total Head Turners. I have to admit, this is the one for me. This is the one that I've been so desperate to drive, but it's also the one that I have deliberately saved until last. The GT40 is also an excellent example of something that cars bring us, which I think we don't often appreciate or talk about anywhere near enough. It's the fact that these vehicles can offer us a very direct connection to the past. It's a magical thing. They are genuine time machines. Yes, this car was constructed in 2013, and a little bit more on that later, but the way it feels, the way it looks is straight out of 1966. This thing is just sublime. You drop yourself down into this, it's an event before the thing's even started moving. And then when it does start moving, it is pure, raucous, raw, old school. Now you may or may not be aware, but there are a number of GT40s out there that were built after the original run, which are not kit cars, they are not replicas, they are, as far as Ford Motor Company are concerned, real GT40s. They may have some differences, but they go in the GT40 chassis register. They are continuation cars. Now these days the rights to build those cars sit with Superformance, a South African company who you may have heard of before. They're by all accounts excellent cars, and this is not one of those. This is a Tornado. It was a kit car built by a gentleman up in Scotland about 7 years ago. Now this vehicle has only 611 miles on it. 612, and there's a very good reason for that. The person that built it apparently wasn't actually really that interested in driving the car. He was one of these types for whom the enjoyment was in the build. So as soon as he completed that, the car was sold then to a couple of elderly gentlemen who just liked looking at it, and in all fairness, I can't blame them for that. They've got a few of these in the showroom at Total Head Turners at the moment, and originally it was a Golf liveried car that my attention was drawn to, but the moment I saw this, I thought, nah, this is the one. This metallic blue paintwork with white racing stripes looks absolutely spectacular. This also does not have the gurney bubble. I just about fit in here, and I fit in here actually pretty perfectly. This thing is almost sized for me, so I'm a bit lucky because there is no adjustment in these things. You build them to your own specifications. You build them and size them to you. So you got to get lucky really with them. Glorious noise is coming courtesy of a 302 cubic inch Ford Windsor V8. That for us Europeans is a 5-litre engine, which is correct and in keeping with what these cars would have had from the factory gates. Now this particular engine is putting out about 330 horsepower, and you have to remember that it is sat in a very lightweight chassis. If you lift up the clam at the back, you will see that there is not a lot to this car at all. Now I want to thank you all for your patience, because I know that I've been sat in traffic for a little while, partly deliberately because I wanted to get this thing up to temperature, and I know you, like me, are desperate to know what this thing's like when you're pressing on. I am more than happy to oblige. I'm not even going that fast, and I don't care. I really don't care. I thought I was doing about 100 miles an hour. I genuinely wasn't. I was doing about 60. Oh! Now you have to be careful. The gearbox, the gear shift is in the correct place. It's over here on the right hand side, but third and fifth are basically adjacent to one another, so it's very easy to go down into third when you're meant to go up into fifth. Oh, the whole thing moves and shakes and shimmies, but it also talks to you. It does give you the confidence. It tells you where the limit is. I mean, look, you're going to tire of this after a little while. I have immense respect for the people that simply drive one of these down to Le Mans, let alone the crazy guys that competed in these things, because that must have been absolutely bananas. But as a sensation, as an experience, I've never known anything like it. A Lotus Exige is absolutely going to run rings around one of these. No two ways about it. But this is also one of the few cars I've ever driven that will make an Exige feel like some floaty old luxury saloon. That's a bit unfair on the Exige, in all fairness. They are absolutely wonderful, fantastic things, but this is just next level special. You can see nothing out the back, absolutely nothing. These wing mirrors here, decorative. This one here, less than useless. If you want to see out the back, you've got to turn your head, then you can't see where you're going, you can't see anything out there anymore. There's a bit of engine poking up. That's about it. But the view forward is magnificent. This dash just drops away from you within a couple of minutes of driving. And it's you, the road, and that engine. Honestly, I feel like I'm on a bicycle. I feel like I'm just dragging that engine along, or more accurately, I think it's dragging me. Wow. There are no driver aids in this car. It's you, it's the road. For 16 years, I've been wondering what it would be like to be in that other seat of Henry's dad's GT40. Wondering, thinking, you know what? That car's horrible, it's small, it's cramped, especially on that side. It's noisy, it's thirsty, it's got 2 fuel tanks, you have to toggle between them. I spent the last 14 years worrying that when I got to drive one of these, it would be a disappointment. It never occurred to me, not once, not ever did it occur to me, that it could be this good. I promise you, I absolutely promise you right now, hand on heart, no BS, no YouTuber exaggeration. If the sight of one of these gives you the horn, the driving experience will not let you down. This is not a fast car, not really, not by modern standards. Quick in a straight line, yes, but you've got to be very careful, very delicate and very sensitive with it in the corners. But I don't care. I need one of these things in my life. This is the ultimate sip car. You couldn't do a whole bottle of this. You couldn't, because you'd come out of it absolutely spitting feathers. You'd hate it. You'd be angry. Your head would be ringing. You wouldn't know who you were anymore. You wouldn't be able to hear. But a shot glass is the most exhilarating and intoxicating thing you could possibly sample. Alright, let's stop waxing lyrical here. Let's talk about the practical side of things, because that is a big, important part of this series, the real ownership experience. Purchase price, this car, £80,000. It is today the most expensive car I've featured in this series. I personally don't think £80,000 is all that much. It is the price these days of a reasonably well specified Boxster. It wouldn't get you into something like a 718 Boxster Spider. People are still asking this amount of money for an early Cayman GT4. Sure, that car's going to be the far better, more usable, more practical, more modern vehicle. And if you want something you can daily drive, yes, absolutely, of course, go and get one of those instead. Don't be silly. Don't even consider one of these as a daily driver or anything like that. There's no room in it for a start. It can't see out the back. The gearbox is a bit weird. You have to pull a little cable to get it to go into reverse. But as an experience, this is sensational. So running costs, actually very much like the Cobra that I featured recently. When you buy, make sure you get someone that knows these things to check them over, especially if you are going to buy a low mileage example, because you need to make sure that all of the usual suspects have been taken care of. Fit and finish on these things is never going to be perfect. That's just the nature of the beast. Every time I go over a big bump, I get a little dose of air coming in through the door when it's just pulling apart just momentarily. It's actually not too bad in here temperature-wise at the moment. It's sunny out there, but it's not actually that hot. There is actually a little bit of air coming through a vent down here and a side window. You do have a stereo in here. I mean, that's very optimistic putting a stereo in one of these, I must say. It does work. Can't hear it, but it does work. And generally, because you're going to do so few miles in these things, the maintenance costs pretty low. Insurance, again, same as the Cobra. Find a specialist, not expensive. These are another vehicle as well, and this seems to be a bit of a common theme with this series, that really refuses to depreciate, and that is quite important because that is ultimately what's going to make a car cost you a lot. It's no good a thing just being cheap to run. You've lost 50 grand in 3 years. That's an expensive car, and that's not affordable. One of these though, they've got a 1995 built example at the moment with a lot more miles on it, and that's up for 65 grand. So they really don't lose that much, and I can see why. To build a new super performance car, realistically, you're looking at about 6 figures. Not high 6 figures, but 6 figures nonetheless. And I'm really not sure that having an authentic chassis number would really mean that much to me. At least not, you know, another £30,000. I do need to try more of these, I genuinely do, not because it's just riotous fun, but also in the name of science. Because one thing the guys at Total Head Turners have told me about all of these vehicles, the GT40s, the Cobras, the whole lot, is that they are all genuinely very different. Even if you take two vehicles which have identical spec sheets, they are very different riding things. There's a lot you can configure in these cars. Take the suspension. In this car, it's actually reasonably well set up. It still floats a little bit, but it's exactly what I'd expect from a period sports car. It's got the correct size tyres on it, in my opinion. Brakes actually work pretty well, but you do, of course, have to remember they are ultimately not the biggest brakes, and this car doesn't weigh a lot, which means that there isn't a lot of weight at the front. All the weight in this car's at the back. There's just a couple of tubes at the front. There's nothing there. The one piece of modern technology I'd like in here, and actually I think the same for the Cobra, would be a little heads-up display speedo down here, because with the speedo all the way over there and this thing just always making a lot of noise, it's very easy to lose track of how fast you're actually going. I love this thing. This is special. Steering, it's light, it rides, it moves around, the wheel is perfectly sized. Everything about this car is an event. I'm going to drop it back. I'll have spent about 40 minutes in here in total, and that will be enough. But if I never ever get to drive a GT40 ever again, and I hope that's not the case, this is another memory that for me is going to last an absolute lifetime. So thanks so much to the guys for letting me have a go. As always, please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already, for entirely selfish reasons, if I'm honest, because you doing that lets me do more of this. But look, I promise to bring you along for all the other adventures, okay? See you on the next one. Bye-bye!